For over a century, the Sports Argus was a must-read publication for sports fans across the West Midlands. Even though it last hit the streets in 2006, it's fondly remembered, and this month it would have been celebrating its 125th anniversary.
The Sports Argus was just amazing, and I was the editor until 1982.
To say that I worked for the Sports Argus was an absolute privilege. You know, it was a newspaper that everyone around the country knew.
Since February 1897, Argus reporters used state-of-the-art technology to get football results into print as soon as possible, and the half hour from 4:30 p.m. was crucial.
It was such an adrenaline rush at that stage. Your whole week was determined by what went on in that time.
So everybody had a job to do, and if everybody did their job properly, the Argus was out on time. And it was off the stone, which was where it was all like a big bench, and all the pages were on the pages, and they all had to be pushed off, and the front and back page were the last ones to go. And if their plan was to get them off at 2 minutes past 5, and generally it was, but if it was 3 minutes past 5, that was acceptable. 4 minutes past 5, there was an inquest. We want to know why. Or I did, and unfortunately that didn't happen very often.
The vans would be waiting, because the vans have already come back then from doing the evening mail runs, and they'd be waiting, and it was amazing to see them, because they'd all be lined up outside Colmer Row at the back of Colmer Circus, and they'd all have the back doors open, and as soon as you could see them, as soon as the Argus was coming off, they were being bundled up on the machine. You didn't have to bundle them up, they were all bundled up on the machine, and they would just bang, whop, and in they went.
Well, as a kid, you knew the Argus would be delivered about 6 o'clock, so you'd get up to the shop, you'd paid in advance. So what I used to do was wait for the van to pull up with the Argus in, run up to the van, help the driver with the load, walk to the front of the queue to deliver at the counter, get served first. Yeah. So there's no hanging about, and I was home. And as soon as I got home, my dad had to take the Argus off me so we could read all the fishing results.
I just couldn't wait for the Argus of a Saturday night, Derby live. As if they was in it, like, it was sacred, yeah, definitely sacred. Yeah. I loved it, and when it ended, I was devastated.
And you may actually walk into a pub and you'd see a crowd of people reading the Argus, and that gave you such a, you didn't go over, at no stage did I ever go over and say, oh, I was the editor, I produced that this week, because you make yourself look a complete buffoon. But the sense of pride...
You actually went over and signed it, didn't you? I should have bought my last issue.
But the... to see people, something that you had a passion for, there was a pride in what you achieved.
Saturday afternoon when I was covering the games for the Argus, that would be getting into the press box at the Hawthorns. The first thing we'd do is you'd have a telephone in front of you. It was our own telephone. At 10 to 3, they would ring, the copy taker would ring. She got the direct number. And it was an open line. We never put the telephone down. So she would ring me. I would give her the teams.
Copy taking was an art.
They were very good. They were great typists. Yeah. But their first job was to listen.
Yeah.
And they had to listen, and they wouldn't make a mistake. They were tremendous.
If you got like Dick Criswicki playing for the Albion, he was Kizzywicki, and now that was sort of, I could do it, no problem. She would never ask again for the spelling, because it would be on a typewriter, on the side of a typewriter. So that was their professionalism. If there were two, like if Alistair Brown and Tony Brown were playing, it was always Brown bracket T close bracket, Brown bracket A close bracket, and she would always know which one I was talking about, because I'd say A Brown, T Brown. and she would just, you know, put the bracket in anyway, you know. So that's how professional they were, how good they were. And from the first whistle, you're basically talking to the copy taker.
You'd got to listen very carefully because you'd hear all the noise of the matches in the background, so you'd got to listen to what they were saying. It was just one after the other, flashing, and you were just taking it. So you've got to be quite accurate and good at spelling to send it over, because if you made any mistakes on the spellings, you'd know about it because they'd shout over and tell you.
Yeah, so if you had a really difficult name...
Well, the funny thing is, when I first started, I always thought Middlesbrough was Borough, B-R, and I put, that's how I put it. And one of the editors, I sent it over like that, and he stood up and he went mad. He says, "Whoever's spelling Middlesbrough, get to know that it's Middlesbrough." So that was my first experience. I never made that mistake again.
You had a relationship with them. You did, and it was a professional relationship.
They
yes,
were
but
Argus wife, weren't
if
they?
you didn't have the same one the next week, it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the
No,
same.
It's absolutely right. I mean, it didn't happen by chance. The copy takers were assigned to a certain person.
Yeah.
And there was real pride, because I think that's something that's overlooked as well. There was an army of people involved in the process of producing a paper in such a small window.
A great example of the Argus reacting to last-minute action occurred in 1966, when, as the Argus went to print, England were drawing 2-2 in the World Cup final, prompting a non-committal headline, "It's extra time." And then, in the stop pressed, "Hurst goal in extra time." And then, with no time for triumphant prose, it was World Cup result, England 4, West Germany 2. For the Argus, that was a great result, and it certainly was for England.
You wanted that Saturday match, you wanted to be 4-0 at half-time, because
Definitely.
there was nothing worse than anything happening after that 60th minute, because you had to have an intro in mind, you had a form rate in mind, and late goals were just the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
Can I butt in there? However you felt as a writer, multiplied by a factor of 10 as the editor.
He's still milking
as the
this.
editor.
He's there.
Because it affected almost everything. You know,
There's no smoke in the
your
office
front
in them,
page,
you can just see the
change your
cigar.
picture, change of intro,
Lit.
change of headline, change your focus. Trust me.
Is the Villa game still going on?
No one wanted a simple stroll of a 4-0 for Villa Blues, Albion Wolves, etc. More so than I did.
You would pray for a 2-0 half time so that you can have time to think about when that 60th, 70th minute comes, when they say to you, "Okay, Bill, we now need to compose your intro and your second, third, fourth part," and you'd have time to think about it then, because the game's over. But Aston Villa today sauntered to a 2-0 victory that cemented their place at the top of the Premier League.
New
paragraph,
yeah.
goals from Juan Pablo Angel, blah, blah, fantastic. Any goals after the 70th minute, you were now racing. You were now playing catch-up in your own mind. Another goal as well, twist, okay. And the amount of time the adrenaline kicks in, and you're talking to the copy takers, you're composing, and because of your relationship with them, they're incredible. You can say, no, scrap that. No, okay, take it back to a comma, change that to a comma, and I want to dash it. Okay, bring in, who scored again, remind me? And you'd be like that, and the adrenaline would go, and then when you'd got those 4 parts, and then the form rating, and you'd say, "Oh, I don't know, what do you think? How does it sound? You know, I don't know, is it good or is it great?" Good, yeah, just good. Okay, we'll go good, give it 8, man of the match, Gareth Barry, definitely, yeah.
I mean, like I say, you wanted the drama in the first half, because in that second half you wanted to have your feet up, be enjoying the match, because let's be honest, it was a privilege to be there. But those late goals, the last minute goals that changed the course of a match, Bradford away changed the course of an entire season. I remember there were some disgraceful scenes in the press box of press officers hugging journalists. It was a bizarre thing. I mean, Albion had West Brom were playing Bradford that year. They had missed, I think, they'd missed 8 out of 11 penalties, and West Brom get the last minute penalty. Copy taker. There's been a penalty. Obviously, I was a bit more animated than that. Penalty, and I'm thinking they're going to miss this. This is just going to ruin everything. Eagle Ballis steps up, bang, 1-0. And there's no other way to say it. West Brom are on the brink of promotion, having come from nowhere with the last kick of that match, pretty much, to win promotion, which will be sealed the following week. But it was that blessed late goal, and it just changed everything. I suspect it Jason's hair fell out that day, or went white that day. I think there was swearing going on, there was all sorts going on. I mean, listen, as a journalist, you live for those moments, that adrenaline, that utter drama of being in the teeth, in the apex of a massive story like that, or what was a massive story for the Argus, and knowing that come 6 o'clock, people are going to be hanging on every word from that game. And it was an away game, so there's a lot of people didn't go. You just know that they're going to be lapping that up, and it was just brilliant.
I remember being at Villa Park that day, and whispers quickly went around the press box that Albion had got a penalty. And I thought, oh God, come on. I've put so much effort into this game. Okay, I've got a beautiful intro, paragraphs 2, 3, 4. We've given the form rating, they're winning the game, no problem. And Albion have gone and buggered it up by stealing the limelight from me. But of course, my heart.
And as an Albion fan, you'd have been
my
more.
I couldn't even sit on a seat. I hid below the what's happened. I was waiting for me.
There were tears. There were tears, I'm sure.
Tears of joy.
In 1968, for the FA Cup final, the Argus produced a special morning edition. It's your cup, Albion, if you can shut them out and if you can shoot them in, like this. The match itself finished 0-0 after 90 minutes. Devastating for the Argus as extra time loomed. Hence the headline, it's extra time. But then Jeff Astle scored, and here we were, a special edition half an hour later. It's Albion's Cup. Albion 1, Everton 0. And the paper boasted there would be a special Argus on Monday. It'll be a complete souvenir that you will want to cherish. And there it is, Albion the headline, the players on the coach coming on the Soho Road, back to the Hawthorns, a special supplementary edition produced on the Monday after the match. Many thousands of people have kept these issues, including David Ashman, son of Alan, the Albion manager at the time.
I've got a couple of copies with the pictures in, and I know I've got that one at home.
So it meant a lot to your dad as well, I suppose.
Yeah, well, he kept them.
They took the decision that because Albion had won and the fans would be coming back late, we actually went down the M1 and stopped and dropped Arguses off at every service area. Wow. And we sold thousands of people coming, who were coming back. Yeah. And we also had them. I think we actually put them on the train at Coventry. The trains that were coming back from Wembley, I think they came through Coventry, and I think they stopped at Coventry, and I think they put a load on there. And of course, they were New Street we got cellars out.
The Argus was much more than just football, as it covered lots of grassroots community sports, and we'll be talking about this in the future programme and also expanding on some of these stories.
Muhammad Ali, I went over for he's the third time he fought for the world title fight. And he started talking, I am the greatest and all this sort of thing. Everybody loved it, really did. I loved it. And he looked down at me and he said, I can't do an American accent, so forgive me for that. But he looked down at me and he said, and who are you? And I looked at him and said, Ian Johnson. And where are you from? I said, England, Birmingham, England. Birmingham, England? You come all the way over to see me?
The week the Argus closed, we all had to speak to different managers, players, legends, and I spoke to Brian Robson, who was manager of Albion at the time. He still remembered that actually the Argus and the Mail had played a really big part in his development from West Bromwich Albion footballer to England international, and you know that really came through in the comments that he gave me during that final week of the Argus.
The feel-good factor that the paper generated was wonderful.
Now, tell me this story about you managed to sack Trevor Francis.
Well, it was yes, I did, and it went all over the television, thanks to Gary Newborn.
I think Ian Willars famously came to this very pub, walked in on a Saturday at 1:30, and the Sports Argus subs are having their lunch, if I can call it that, and they say, Ian, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? It wasn't Wimbledon, it was Crystal Palace. And of course, Villa were playing Crystal Palace, but they weren't playing at Villa Park, they were playing at Sellers Park. And I think he made it for half time. I might be wrong, but I think he drove as quickly as he drank that pint that day.
The Argus darts team was tremendously successful. I don't know how many games we played in a season, but if there's 52 weeks, we probably played about 35 games. Wow. Something like that, every Friday night. And if we lost one, fair enough. If we lost two, hang on. And if we lost three, what's gone wrong?
The European nights were good as well, both at the Albion and abroad. I always remember Albion were playing Valencia. That was the night that Laurie sold himself to Real Madrid. And I used to do, because I knew Nick Owen very well, who was obviously the BBC man, and I used to join him in the commentary box, and I used to do like inter-round summaries. All we could hear from their booth was, hello, Radio Telefónica Madrid, Radio Telefónica Madrid, hello.
And Pat Cowdell, I think, is probably the boxer from the Midlands of the most quality I ever saw. He got a badly cut eye, and afterwards I went into the dressing room and he was lying on the couch, and they were going to put a stitch in his eye, and but the cut was that deep, they had to put a stitch into the cut below the cut, if you understand what I mean. It was like and he was on the and they put this needle in, and he started screaming, and I had to help hold him down.
Now, if you worked in a small way on the Argus or have memories of being in it, then please do get in touch on tntnews.co.uk, and you could be in our special hour-long programme which we're going to produce later in the year. But for now, it's goodbye, and thank you for watching, and happy anniversary to the Sports Argus.
And today has been absolutely super to go back down memory lane, and I appreciate that, and thank you very much indeed. So here is to the Sports Argus.
From Mr. Argus himself.
Cheers, Bob. Cheers, lads.
To the Argus.
To the Argus.
Hello, Radio Telefónica Madrid, Radio Telefónica Madrid, hello.